What is going on, everybody? Welcome into a new edition Batter Up podcast sponsored by the Dugout of Millwood. Mike, the old ops guy, with you. We are coming to you later time, but that's because today's a day of celebration for some. So, to all the moms, wives out there, want to wish you a happy Mother's Day. Hope you had a tremendous day. For all
Ditto from the old ops guy.
I was doing it more from the network, but okay. But
Yeah, they chose not to come tonight. We get to give the soulful from the group.
yeah,
We're the group.
we're the soul of the network.
That's us.
We're the Blues
Two
Brothers.
Jewish white guys, the soul of the network.
We're
We
the
are the
blue.
hey.
We're the Blues Brothers. We're the Soul Men.
Oh, that's what we got to do for Halloween now. You have to be Jake. I'm Thin and Stick. I'm Elwood. There we go.
You know what? I could be John Belushi. All John Belushi Animal House.
For most of you all who grew up during Mike's age who don't understand that reference, I do.
If you're too young to understand Animal House, I can't help you.
Don't watch it yet.
There are so many. We can dive into movies at a different date.
Correct.
That is not on the docket for tonight. On the docket, we're talking baseball. We're going to debut a new segment regarding both the New York Mets and New York Yankees at the end of the show. We are also going to review something we started last week with Dan. We'll go into review of that because some of us did not post the poll on social media. That'll be done this week because, well, Dan's not here. But let's start with the first two firings of managers during the MLB season. Earlier this week, Derek Shelton of the Pittsburgh Pirates was fired. And then today, Bud Black, the manager of the Rockies, was fired. Let's start with Bud Black, who in his, I think it was like 9 seasons, posted a record of 544 and 690. What, Mark, for both of these guys, it's actually not all their fault.
No, and you're not wrong. I mean, I'm more surprised with Pittsburgh than anything. I'm not surprised in Colorado. Colorado's off to 7-33. There's something obviously not right. So you can't throw away your players that you're paying big money to over the years and years and years. You have to pay them out. So you go to the biggest thing that's going to say something and you get rid of the manager. Is this going to necessarily kick the Rockies in the ass and make them move up the ladder? No. The Rockies are going to be lucky to win 60 games all season.
They won their 7th today.
Correct.
They're
going to be lucky to win 60 all year.
But okay, and that's fine. And I want to take this from Bud Black's perspective for a second. When he first got there, I want you guys to think about this team. Trevor Story was the shortstop. Nolan Arenado was the third baseman. Charlie Blackmon was the center fielder. Of those 3 guys, Charlie Blackmon retired and played his whole career with the Rockies, and I'm not going to fault Charlie Blackmon for that.
Not at all.
Trevor Story left in free agency. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say Trevor Story's lit the world on fire for the Boston Red Sox because he hasn't. But you got nothing in return. And then the kicker. Nolan Arenado is, for me, the greatest third baseman defensively I've ever seen. I'm too young to have seen Brooks Robinson, and I've seen
even me. I didn't see Brooks Robinson. He was well before me.
Even. Did you actually know that the Simon and Garfunkel song "Here's to You"? Mrs. Robinson was not about Brooks Robinson's wife.
Yes, I know the movie where it all came from, The Graduate. Yes.
But anyway, to digress,
yeah.
You trade Nolan Arenado plus $50 million. You ship that to the St. Louis Cardinals. And what'd you get back?
Nothing. Well, they got back a package, but nothing
Nothing
as equal to what he.
special.
Correct.
So then the Rockies rotation has some talent. Kyle Freeland has shown something at times. Herman Marquez, who is probably going to get traded by the deadline, but
I would think so. Yes.
he's coming off of Tommy John. Antonio Senzatella shown some, but it's Colorado. These guys aren't going to put up ERAs of 3 or
No.
less. So you have to outscore everybody. And your big move over the last 9 years, outside of trading Arenado, was signing Chris Bryant. And let's be brutally honest, the Chris Bryant signing is probably the second worst signing of the decade of the 2020s, behind the Anthony Rendon signing in Anaheim.
Very close, but yeah. When Bryant signed with Colorado, it just seemed more out of convenience. I think it was the only team that was giving him a bone. And he said, you want to, basically, he took the first offer, in my opinion. I don't think any other team really came at him. And Colorado was thinking, Chris Bryant, Colorado Air, you get a decent fly ball, it's going to be a home run. But that hasn't been Chris Bryant at all since he's ever left Chicago, in my opinion. Chris Bryant has definitely digressed a lot. He's not worth what he used to be worth. And he's been injured, and Colorado's taking a bath on this contract. I would believe it was like 8 or 9 years or something like that, too, for $170, if I remember it correctly. And with a player of his caliber, I understand warranting money at the time, but if you have a team that's that bad, we're trying to bring in somebody big just to grab fans, you have to be smarter than that and not just go for the money.
It was 7 for 182.
7 for 182. Okay, that was close.
And he's got, after this, he's up after 2029.
2029. That's 4 years.
But by the way, he'll probably retire before that, just based on.
I'm sure he has a clause in his contract where he can retire early and get a portion of what is left. So I'm sure most teams will honor that but what else does Chris Bryant have to accomplish, in my opinion? He's got a World Series title. He's been members of the All-Star team. That's a lot more than
won an MVP.
Won an MVP. Sorry, almost forgot. I apologize, Chris Bryant. I know you're watching and probably threw your drink at the wall saying I didn't do that. He has accomplished more than most baseball players do in a career. Oh, and for him to take the deal, and if he retires early, he's stood up the top of the game. This is just hurting him more and more in his legacy.
Listen, and I'm not saying this to be mean to Chris Bryant. I'm not saying this to hurt anyone's feelings. But when you look at the Colorado Rockies, I feel like this was a deal to sign Chris Bryant to try to appease people after the trade of Nolan Arenado, which still doesn't make sense because you would want Chris Bryant's bat to protect Nolan Arenado in the lineup or vice versa.
Correct.
So, listen, we did a top 5 stadiums we'd love to go check a ball game at. And on my list, I put Coors Field because it looks beautiful.
It really does from the aerial shots. We know Ross was out there and he took some nice pictures for us last year. But that's one stadium I want to visit.
But why am I going to go watch a team that is straight up pathetic? They won their 7th game on May 11th. Their 7th game on May 11th.
The Athletics are better than them.
By the way, the
Athletics are over 500. Let's just put
the Athletics are in second place. Let's show them the love they deserve. Mark Kotsay, American League Manager of the Year. Let's get it going.
I mean,
but you know the Colorado Rockies have become the most inept, the most not even dysfunctional because there's no dysfunction. There's no function. There's there's no there's not. I don't want to say there's not a plan because I don't mind a plan of them rebuilding while the Dodgers are great and everyone else in this division is very good. But the Rockies don't have a plan, period. We don't know prospects. We don't know about what's coming because whenever they've drafted high in the draft, those guys haven't cut it. They drafted Brendan Rodgers third overall. He's now the second baseman for the Houston Astros.
You know, it's a sad situation what's happening in Colorado. But here's the thing. As I brought up the Athletics as a joke, no offense, because what's happening with them, they're 21-20 and they're playing in a minor league park. They're selling out games. They're going to be in Las Vegas in 2 years.
Yep.
Does this mean we're going to be looking as the Colorado Rockies as the new Oakland Athletics? Could we see another franchise end in the next 2 or 3 years? If there's no help being built into the team, as we saw what happened with Los Angeles, and when MLB took over, now look at what Los Angeles is. So the question is, obviously when the dime comes to a stop, the fault lies with the owner. The owner is the one who has to absorb everything. The owner and the general manager are the ones who stand accountable.
And here's where I want to go to Pittsburgh for a second.
Okay, that's fine.
Because Pittsburgh, you got a kid in O'Neal Cruz, who we could call building block. Brian Hayes has always played well defensively. We're waiting for the offense to come through. Paul Skeens has become a phenom. The Pittsburgh
I'm sure Trumpet is jumping up and down right now still.
The Pittsburgh Pirates, after today, are, let me just get it up because they did
14-20 something.
I think it's 14-27.
14-27.
After taking 2 or 3 from the Braves. They're already 9 games behind the Chicago Cubs. By the way, the Rockies are 19.5 back of the Dodgers, if you care. But we knew
I was about to say, let's not bring up the poor Rockies in this.
But here's one thing about Pittsburgh. We knew the pitching staff had potential, led by Skeens, and they got a couple of other kids down in the minor leagues. They don't hit enough, and they knew that going in. But we can't spend any money. Why not? I'm tired of these owners of these smaller to mid-tier market teams. I'm tired of them crying poverty and yelling about how the Dodgers spend or how the Mets spend or how the New York Yankees spend or how the Red Sox spend. I'm tired of it. You have your own money. If you choose not to spend your money, that's a reflection of you. And why do I not want to go to a ballpark and watch a team that, quite frankly, the owner's just going to put the money in his pocket, not spend to make this team better? Why? Let me be brutally honest. Myself and Mark have both been critical of the Wilpons. I will give the Wilpons this. There were times they tried and it didn't work. Jason Bay just didn't work. Although he did have a walk-off hit off of Mario.
That was one of the hardest ones. Yeah, no, but that was one of the hardest acquisitions to see have a horrible turnout.
Because you wanted to.
I like Jason.
Yes,
I like Jason Bay. I thought he was a great ball player.
I will never forgive Jerry Manuel of July. I don't remember the day, but it was right before the All-Star break, a home game against the Braves, It was Jason Bay bobblehead day, and Jerry Manuel didn't have him in the lineup. What the hell, Jerry? But at least they took the attempt. A guy like Pedro Martinez may have not been pretty, but hey, they shelled out the money. Don't mess with the Zohan. Johan Santana. Hey, again, it may not have been pretty at the end, but guess what? Who threw the
He
first?
got a no-hitter.
He's got a no hitter.
Here's what I want to point out to you. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead, and then I'll finish my point.
If you want to look at something, Paul Skeens, 8 games started, 8 quality starts. Sorry, 8 games started, 5 quality starts, but he's got a record of 3-4. He's got an ERA of 2.77. The 4 losses are not his fault. He's losing 1 run here. These are not 8-run games he's losing. They're 1-2-run games in which Pittsburgh had multiple opportunities. Andrew Heaney, 8 games started, 4 quality starts. Mitch Keller, 8 games started, 5 quality starts. And then Bailey Falter, who I have to learn more about. Honestly, I don't know much about him. But also 8 games, 4 quality starts. Your pitching is surviving. So you got the right pitching staff and building on it. Brian Hayes and O'Neill Cruz were supposed to be the power hitters, quote unquote, for this team, especially when they came out because they were hitting like it. They're probably 2 of the best defenders I've seen play the game of baseball outright. The Pittsburgh Pirates are missing the big pitcher, and they're missing what they used to have in the 1970s, and that's hitting.
It's the one big bat. And you talk about the 70s. How about 9 years ago when they were a playoff team?
Fair enough.
That they had Andrew McCutchen was that power bat. Gregory Polanco was a power bat. A young Starling Marte was in there. I'm not, and now Andrew McCutchen's 30. I'm probably wrong. He's 35. He's 36. He's not that.
He's up there, yeah.
Brian Reynolds has never been a big time power hitter. You need a guy in the middle of that order who will strike fear into teams. Hey, you want to do something? Look at your own division for a second. The Milwaukee Brewers, who very rarely spend money, they trade for Christian Yelich. They paid him. Christian Yelich won them an MVP.
Sure did.
And now he's in and out of the lineup, but they don't cry about it. They go out there and they take care of business. Now they have this Jackson Churio who's turning himself into a player. Bryce Terang. They've adjusted their game. The Pittsburgh Pirates needed an impact bat this winter, and they refused to spend a dime.
Because they were hoping to get away with what they had. And
it wasn't good enough.
Right.
And this is a division that's was wide open this winter.
Right. I keep cutting Mike off for some reason tonight. Probably
no, I'm sorry. I'm very passionate on this.
It's always me. I'm the bad. If you look at all the Pirates hitters, I mean, O'Neill Cruz is the one to point out. I mean, he's got 8 home runs, 18 RBIs, but he's also got 16 stolen bases. Doesn't matter if you're hitting 238. If he's batting 260, fine. You wouldn't hear a word out of me about him. But you cannot be a feared hitter and be batting 238. It doesn't work like that. If you look out through this whole lineup, there is not one cleanup hitter that you could call in this entire lineup to be a solid number 4 hitter. And that's a problem.
Yeah. But look at what the Cubs have done. The Cubs go out and get Kyle Tucker. A couple of off seasons ago, they they signed Dansby Swanson.
Yep.
And then, a couple of years ago, they also signed Seiya Suzuki. They were willing to spend the money and the prospect capital. Sorry, I thought I had a sneeze coming. And the prospect capital to grab Kyle Tucker. Now, will they be able to retain Kyle Tucker? I hope so. It'd be great for them. But according to Bob Knight,
You know,
the Dodgers are interested, and that raises a whole nother question mark. But there are players. The, and I'm sick of saying this every freaking week, but I say this every freaking week. Is there not a more underappreciated baseball player than Jose Ramirez? And
and every
Cleveland
week I
don't
say the
spend a
same thing. I
dime
can't
either.
agree with you more. I was about to say I couldn't agree with you more. And yes, you do bring it up every week because it's a relevant statement to say. Because every week whether he's hitting 3, 4 home runs, he's always shadowed under these bigger names who do less in the week.
And we're supposed to sit there and accept the fact that the owners and GMs are going to blame the managers for this. Well, guess what? Everybody needs to wake up. It's not always the manager's fault.
No.
It's not Derek Shelton's fault that Bob Nutting won't spend a dime. It wasn't Buddy Black's fault the Colorado Rockies traded away Nolan Arenado with $50 million and then brought in Chris Bryant for no really good reason.
It's when you watch baseball, there's good teams and there's bad teams. We know that. But when teams are out of control, and I'm not even speaking of Pittsburgh, they've at least won double of what the Colorado Rockies have done. Major League Baseball has to take a stance, and we know with the guy who's behind the entire ring of it, I don't really like him very much, and neither does a few of our other members. So I don't think anything of consequence is ever gonna happen. It was a expansion team, and the question is, they're not the New York Yankees. They didn't come out in their first 10 years and win a World Series. The question is when is this team going to bring in anything that's worth it being a team in the MLB?
Here's my question to the person you brought up without saying his name.
Exactly.
Find me a fair and comparable solution because Steve Cohen came in as owner of the Mets and we immediately implement the Steve Cohen tax rule. And, that's the luxury tax stuff.
You spend $1 billion, yes.
What about the reverse of that? What about the owners who refuse to spend the dollar? What's their punishment? And don't give me this, well, we have to play it fair. Bull. If you own a team, you are a millionaire, you are a billionaire, I don't care what you are. You want to win games. Sure, your goal in the end is to make money, and that's fine and dandy. But people don't come and help your pocket out if you don't put a product out on the field. So here would be my implore to the people of Pittsburgh and Colorado. As beautiful as both those ballparks look, and as great of fans as you want to be, guess what? I'm not going to spend a dime until you spend a dime. Give me a reason to go to the ballpark and get trashed.
And is that the case of what necessarily has been happening in Oakland? And we've gotten to this point. Is this the next? That's why I was saying, are we looking at the next sign of the next Oakland Athletics right now?
No,
I mean, the park is only by Major League standards, still brand new. It's only 20 years old. That's not old for a baseball stadium.
If Major League Baseball was willing, I don't know if they are, to take control of the situation, we would have had a solution to this by now. But you're right. Colorado came in what, 93?
Just about 93, 94,
Yeah.
or 95. One of those 3 years. I'm sorry.
No. I think they came in with the Marlins in 93.
Yes. Okay, so 93, yeah.
And since then, they've been to the World Series one time. They were there.
That's more than a few franchises I can think of.
but I just want you to think about this now. What's your reason for going to the ballpark if you live in Denver? I'd
I mean,
just
if you're
go
not sitting in
here.
the right field stands, left field stands, I don't know.
Listen, I would just go to say, you know what? Hey, the Dodgers are in town. I'm going to go watch Shohei and Mookie play. That can't be the Rockies' excuse. And
But it has been,
right,
and
right,
that's the problem.
and that, and that's why it's imperative of the biggest fraud in all of sports, Rob Manfred, to say, you know what, guys, I can't just be harsh on the really good teams because they spend money. I have to be harsh on you because you refuse to spend money as well. There has to be
Especially with
a
what it,
balance.
especially what it costs for a family to go to a ball game these days.
Yeah,
Let's even say it's out in Colorado and you're sitting all the way up. It's already probably too much for that family to already be there.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I hate to say it. As much as I grew up going to Shea Stadium, going to Citi Field, Yankee Stadium, all the ballparks I've talked about and visited it when I've talked. There's one thing is I've gotten to see greatest baseball players play during my time. Those were my reasons to go. But if your main reason to be an organization is to attract tourism, then you're in the wrong friggin' business. Because if you're owning a stadium that when Los Angeles Dodgers come in and you like Mike said, Shohei, Mookie, whatever, but you're gonna have a full stadium, but it's not because it's the Rockies fans. This is not the way you run and own a fan based team.
Look,
This is
look,
why the biggest asshole in all of baseball needs to implement what Mike is talking about and a punishment for teams that do not better themselves.
and look. Here's another prime example. The Rays are playing at the Yankee Spring Training Complex. Now that's not their fault that the hurricane blew off the roof
No,
of the Trop, but the Rays didn't draw people anyway. Even when the Yankees and Red Sox came in, there were more Red Sox and Yankee fans than there were Rays fans.
correct. And that still stands as it is today,
Right.
even though ticket prices are cheaper.
And we could sit there and say, well, the Trop's a dump, this or that, but you have to put out the Rays at least have put out a product that's won. They've been to the playoffs. They do it differently than everyone else.
The Rays find ways, and I know you've used that exact statement.
Yeah.
They always find a way to make themselves credible when it counts, right after the All-Star break, making a push. That's why I never count them out. And I know Mike has said that a bunch of times as well, is that the Rays always find ways to surprise you.
Yeah. But again, they don't spend a ton of money. But when they do, they
But
spend
they
it
win
wisely. They've
and they
won.
win.
They've won. Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. So I don't know if Derek Shelton will get another shot as a big league manager, but I hope Buddy Black does because they both deserve better than what they got from their owners.
I don't disagree with you. I see Bud Black before, but because of experience wise. And you could probably, it wouldn't surprise me if they would even bring Bud Black to Pittsburgh. It would be an interesting situation for him to take over.
I also wonder if someone would bring him in as a pitching coach. Maybe he
Could
doesn't
be also, yes.
maybe he doesn't want the stress of managing again, but who knows? All
I
right.
mean, if you put him in Pittsburgh as a pitching coach quickly, look at the
Look at
rotation he
the
has to
arm.
work with.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
All right.
So Bud Black could make sense in Pittsburgh.
Black. Listen, we're
Good.
going to start scouting on other jobs that managers may
Yeah.
or may not be fired. We don't want to do that yet, but let's go to Boston, where last week first baseman Tristan Casas ruptured his patella tendon. He is going to miss the rest of the year. He underwent surgery. But then there
Sucks.
was a conversation of who's going to play first base in Boston, and the name Rafi Devers came up. Devers apparently has refused, and I have a quote here from
It's probably
Devers.
the same one I have.
Quote, I know I'm a ball player, but at the same time, they can't expect me to play every single position out there. In spring training, they talked to me and basically told me to put away my glove, that I wasn't going to play any other position but DH. So right now, I just feel like it's not an appropriate decision by them to ask me to play another position. It was the GM that I spoke with. I'm not sure what he has with me. He played ball, and I would like to think he knows that changing positions like that isn't easy, close quote. So that's what Devers said. Apparently, the Red Sox ownership flew to Kansas City and met with him. They had a conversation, and Devers had a pretty darn good weekend against the
Oh,
Kansas City Royals, helping some of us fantasy team wise.
yes, I'm one of them. I do have Raphael. Let me put it
I
to you
do as
this
well
way.
in one of my leagues.
Yeah. Let me put it to you this way, Mike. When you see an eruption of a big time player like this, everybody's eyes, especially when you hear the name of, especially who it is, Rafael Devers, the defensive and offensive way he plays, it's going to catch the eyes of every team automatically. There's problems. Oh, is there a little bad? There are teams with stacked farm systems, none more than, I'm sorry to say, than the New York Mets. Would the Mets entertain, and mind you, the package that would have to go to Boston? I've been sitting and playing with this. I still haven't even finished it yet. But you would have to figure Brett Beatty would be the automatic to go to Boston as a third base replacement. You would definitely think that Ryan Clifford would be of use. Alex Ramirez would be a name thrown out there. The Mets aren't going to let Mauricio Jet Williams. But the name I think that would turn it all, and no, it's not who you're thinking, it's going to be Matt Allen. And as much as the Mets have put into him through the Tommy John surgeries and everything to get him to this point, the question is if they have no meaning of bringing him up at any time, and they haven't even expressed thought about it, even after he's recovered, there has to be reason for it. The Mets are not the best pitching staff in baseball. I mean, numbers wise right now. But as you get on to the years, these innings are going to pile up. So right now, I'm glad the Mets have a hell of a lead. But the pitching aspect worries me in New York a little bit. But you bring in someone like Rafi Devers and you put him into that New York lineup, I wouldn't say no.
I don't
I can have Mark Vientos or Rafael Devers play third base at that point.
I don't think at this point I'm putting Rafi Devers on the market.
Oh, I'm just saying what the package would have been
Oh,
if the Mets, and just speaking
listen.
from us, I'm not
It's
talking any team.
listen. It's rich for my blood. And I think the world of Rafi Devers. I've said multiple times on
Yeah.
this show, on social media. I think that guy's going to win an MVP at some point.
At some point in his career,
Like
yes.
he is that guy. To go into his quote, I think he's right. The Boston Red Sox did this to themselves when they went out there and made the pitch for Alex Bregman to come on. And Bregman wants to play third because that's his position. And listen, that's all due respect to Bregman. That's fine. But you can't treat Rafi Devers, who's been there, done that, helped you win a World Series, and then be like, well, we're going to go after Bregman, and we're not kicking him to second. We're going to move you over to DH. And then when the unfortunate injury to Casas comes, be like, Rafi, we need you to play first. And so I don't disagree with Rafi on that. The other thing is, you've seen Moneyball. We've all
Of
seen
course.
Moneyball. The scene where Brad Pitt and whoever plays Ron Washington goes to Scott Hatterberg's house and they go, "We want you to play first base." Brad Pitt goes, or Scott Hatterberg goes, "Is it hard?" Brad Pitt goes, "It's not that hard. Tell him, Wash. It's very
It's hard.
hard." And
It, It's
Go
not
ahead.
an easy position. Sorry, it's
No,
not an easy position.
no, but if you came
More
to him,
injuries happen at first than they do any other base.
right, if you came to him in spring training and said, "Hey, Rafi, we want you to try this," I don't think he's saying no.
Neither do I.
But it's the way you went about it earlier with the process of bringing in Bregman. And
Bregman was a fantastic signing.
right, but it's just the way you went about it,
Way it was handled.
the
Agreed.
way it was handled. And that's a first time GM making a mistake. So what should the Red Sox go and do at first base? Well, listen, it's May 11th. Trade market's really not open yet.
Not yet. No.
But if you wait a couple of weeks, hey, teams like the Rockies may be open for business. Maybe the Pirates are open for business early. Who knows? You're going to figure out the solution to it. But I just don't feel like this situation was handled well with your most important player and one of the game's best players in Rafi Devers.
There'll be a solution made, and it's going to be made quickly because the last thing the Red Sox need is a problem with their prized, let's put it where it is, face of the organization.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So handle it. This is where you put on the kid gloves. You can't go in there big and brush. You have to treat this right. Or Bregman, not Bregman, sorry. Or Devers can say, you know what? This is how you feel. I'll just sit. He's a,
Trade me.
yeah, trade me. Exactly. So they have to be careful here.
Yeah, you're walking on eggshells.
Because you lose him. I mean, no offense to the Red Sox, they do have a lot more pieces than just Rafi Devers.
You got a lot
But
of
you lose the energy out of that team.
yeah.
So,
All right. So those were the two big main things we wanted to discuss were the two firings and then Rafi Devers. But Mark texted me with an idea, and I was cool with it. So we're gonna take a walk in a New York minute. So we'll take a look at both.
or two.
We'll take a look at what the Mets and Yankees both did this weekend, and then we will dive in, talk about what we did last week, and then get into some weekend previews. So start with the Yankees. They won their rubber game today with the A's 12-2. I still don't understand why teams are pitching to Aaron Judge.
Well, teams are figuring it about Pete Alonso. They're starting to pitch around him. But now they're pitching to Juan Soto, and Juan Soto's starting to get hot.
Yeah, but Judge is a different animal. It's just like I'm okay if Cody Bellinger or Paul Goldschmidt beat me. Aaron Judge is the one guy in the Yankee lineup I can't let beat me. And let's not forget last year Jake Diekman struck him out, and now Jake Diekman's out of the game.
Game. Look, Aaron Judge is a different ball player, not just because he is his size. And if you look at his size compared to most center fielders or outfielders, he's a big boy. But one thing he can do, and he can hit.
Mm-hmm.
He might end up being regulated to DH come towards, later time in his career, as most players might at his age, slowing down in the field, whatnot. But I'm sorry, are we witnessing our version? And God, I never thought I'd say, are we witnessing our Mickey Mantle? Our time of Mickey Mantle in the New York Yankees? Or is Aaron Judge our version of Mickey Mantle right now?
He has to do it in October. Like that's the big knock on Judge is he's got to do it in October. I think Aaron Judge is the best regular season guy I've seen probably since Bonds. But now he's taking it to a different level because he's got the average going. And now, we could talk over the last couple of years, we've talked about potential triple crown with him. Again, I just don't understand why teams pitch to him because let's be honest, no one else in that lineup scares me. But Ben Rice is off to a great start.
Impressive, yes.
But by the way, they're going to come into a dilemma when Stanton thinks he could come back because Ben Rice is going to have to play.
Well, I mean, the last I saw, Stanton was taking light swings at batting practice the other day, but from what I read, he's still a month away.
Right,
is what people are saying.
He's trying to shoot for the beginning of June. I'm not sure how accurate that is.
If he was younger, I could say we're looking at a more accurate statement. But when you're dealing with an older ball player, those statements go out the window.
And here's the other thing. Like, Stan's going to have to go on rehab, which means he's going to have to run the bases at some point. He's pulling a hamstring.
Or something. And, look, when Mike Stanton, before he became the great Giancarlo, played for the Marlins, that struck fear in me enough when he came to at bat. Okay? The moment he signed that deal with the Yankees, I said, this guy is going to go to waste now. You'll see.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
He's broken down. So I'll have to see what happens there. As for this week for the New York Yankees, on tomorrow,
they got the Mariners this week, starting tomorrow.
They're in Seattle before going home for round one of the Subway Series,
which they'll lose, hopefully.
By the way, I hope Yankee fans give Juan Soto a very nice standing ovation that he rightfully deserves.
When he hits 4 home runs and 4 at bats?
After carrying that team to a World Series in his only year there. I've been stirring it up a little bit.
Yeah. I was listening to Yankees fans. The moment Juan Soto was traded, and even now, oh, look, a month's gone by. He hasn't hit more. Oh, yeah, he's hit a couple. He does that far. Juan Soto is probably one of the best hitters I've ever seen step up to the plate ever.
There was a stat today during the Met game on the Roku, which I know you totally enjoyed.
Oh, fuck you, channel. I'm sorry. I can't say the name because we could really be sued, but that much I can do.
That's fine. The stat was hardest hit balls 95 miles per hour or more this season. Juan Soto ranked second behind Shohei Ohtani. And
look, and Aaron Judge, I'm sure, is pretty close to them as well.
He was third, I believe, on that list.
If we had our say in it, and we don't, I would love this year home run derby to be Judge, Shohei, Juan. Get the 3 of them in there. 3 of them, Shohei's participated. Pete has already said he will not be doing it this year. He said he's won it twice. He doesn't need to. And plus, he's not going to hurt his arm.
You know what? Here's the only thing on the Derby, and I love the Derby.
Yes.
I feel like with the Derby, it's starting to get to the dunk contest level of now we're just getting some random stragglers in there. And who's going to be this year's Mac McClung?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I always love the All-Star game, but I would like the All-Star game at the home run derby be participated by the home run leaders at that point. That's how it should be. Yeah. I understand you want to bring in power hitters and let them do it like McGuire in the back days when we watched that. That was fun. But now it should change it up a little bit.
I love a historic derby too. Bringing guys like Albert Pujols, David Ortiz.
What Pujols was in last year? Didn't he hit like?
Oh, that's right.
I think he threw his That's what I was about to say. I think he
David
threw his shoulder
Ortiz.
over the fence trying to hit him
Ortiz.
out.
Put Bonds back up there. Juice back up
I'm
there.
sorry. Nothing was more spectacular than Josh Hamilton at Yankee Stadium.
Oh, and he lost the Derby.
And he lost it too. But he hit balls that
Oh, Chris
wow.
Berman on the call. Oh,
Back. Yeah. That's just gonna keep going. Miss
all right. So
Chris
the
Berman.
Yankees, they'll play the Mariners before they play the Mets. As for the Mets, they took 2 of 3 from the Chicago Cubs. And Mark, there's 2 big stories I'm taking out of this series. One, welcome back Brett Beatty.
Yes.
And 2, the Mets and David Stearns have this ability to find random guys and turn them into studs. I know it's May 11th, but can we get the Clay Holmes and Griffin Canning to the All-Star game trend going? Because these
I
dudes have
mean,
been unbelievable.
obviously Griffin Channing is the bigger surprise of the two, considering his little experience up in the major leagues. Clay Holmes is off to a better start than I had him predicted as. He is off to a fantastic start. As long as he maintains this and stays injury free, the Mets are going to get a lot out of him, but they're going to need him at the end. So, yeah, I love the idea of these players, this pitching staff right now. But even you and I have to realize that right now we're not going to see these numbers inflated until another month before everybody starts getting into their normal rhythms and everything. The major teams that are in it already met their stroke. If you look at the Mets, you know what they're doing. You look at the Yankees, you know what they're doing. The Mets took 2 or 3 from Chicago, and what I took from this, besides yes, welcome back Beatty, but I saw the resurgence of Mark Vientos more. He has started to turn on the hits and starting to slug more, and getting his bat in is going to help. Juan Soto has now started to awaken, taking a little stress off Pete. There is not a spot in this lineup that it is weaker at all. It is definitely strong. It is definitely palpable. We can taste it. We can feel the energy in the air. We just lost Luis Torrens for the last, oh God, probably at least a good 6 weeks, which brings the Mets into a very big position problem. Obviously, the first move is going to bring back up Hayden Sanger. He will take over as the second catcher. But if Sanger falters, they always have Kevin Pareda still down in the minors. The Mets don't have to worry too much about the catchers. I'm not worried about it at all. What the Mets has to concern themselves about is getting to the end of the season and being healthy. And that's not always going to work. It's going to challenge us. It's going to propel us. We're going to see Mike return soon as his internet just crashed on him and he's trying to come back in. It's okay. It's not a problem. The New York Mets are in a position that they haven't been in a long time, and that's at the top of Major League Baseball. It's a good feeling. It's a good day to be a Mets fan right now. If the Mets had a weakness, what would I say? Kryptonite. I mean, I think that would be the only Mets weakness that you have to really, really see with what is going on. The Mets have definite backups for each position. They have the farm system to create and figure out who's going to go where. Because the Mets are not going to be retaining every piece after this year. I would figure one of the biggest names that probably will be off unless signed to a lesser deal is going to be Starling Marte. As much respect as I give to Marte throughout his career, to me, I feel like the injury hampered him and he lost 2 good years of solid playing baseball. And his contract is not going to be missed. They want to be able to bring him back on a lower amount. Fine. I wouldn't mind him on the bench, but I think right field is going to be pretty much turned over to Drew Gilbert as pretty much as what we're seeing as he's inching closer and closer to making his arrival in the big leagues. We will see possibly Jet Williams and Ronnie Mauricio will probably be called up at some point to take a little bit of stress off of Ronald Acuna Jr. Sorry, Luis Angel Acuna. I can't believe I said that. Luis Angel is going to need a little bit of a break and give him a little bit of, mind you, it's a rookie. Got to give him some time. Got to give him some space. It's the matter on how you do it, not the matter of why you do it and in who you do it with. Steve Cohen and David Stearns have put together one hell of a franchise right now. If you look from top to bottom, I mean, when I say bottom, all the way to the bottom of the farm system. They're looking for that right combination, and they're there. We're at the top of baseball. But we also have to not just look at what's happening now. We got to try to play 10 steps down the road here. You got to play chess a little bit. And what to do at the All-Star break is going to be more or less what the Mets are at that point, where they are in the division. They're going to be right up there with Philadelphia, as Philadelphia was winning last I saw. They were up 3-0 on Cleveland. And it's going to be a battle. You got Nola, you got Wheeler. The Mets will have their time against Philly. Unfortunately, Mike's internet decided to act like our president's internet and decided to fall out. So, yes, that's why I've been just talking to you for the last few minutes. So I'm going to wrap this up as he's not going to be coming back. This week, look for, I'm looking for this week's game, but I face it, it's the Subway Series. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be the time. And if the Mets are smart, just walk Aaron Judge. Pitch to anybody else. Make the rest of the team do it. And you want to know what? If the Yankees want to feel the same way, go ahead, walk Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, Mark Viento. Walk them all. We'll take all the free runs you want to give. But there is no way this Yankees pitching is going to last against this Mets lineup. That is going to be it for tonight's episode of Batters Up here on the Sports Insanity Network. Please follow us on all the socials, on Twitter at SINReal, Facebook, on the net, www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com. Tune in for special episodes of The Dugout this week. We'll have a special 101 of the major order that will be on its way to our co-signer top-notch sports break this weekend. As Charlotte will be going over pretty much about 40, 50 cards. So be ready for a fun time. For me, the entire network, all the moms out there who celebrated Mother's Day, we all appreciate you in one way or another, I'm sure. We love you all. Be sure to tune in this weekend for Batters Up on Sunday. And to wrap it up, I'm Marco Sky Halpern.